One curious thing might be, was how did I come to emotional content and why, and how I came up with all these tools and techniques. One of the reasons why, the first tool I came up with was because I had problems as an actor with emotion, because I was always asked to go to tears because I was playing an ingenue and I had to cry all the time. And what I discovered was that there was only one thing being offered to build your emotional range, and that was sense memory. And there was nothing else. There was nobody else was talking about emotion. In fact, people would just run from emotion. They'd say, no, you can't play an emotion. However, emotions themselves can be motivators. When you think of lust, I mean, you allow yourself to go to lust, for example. What a great emotional motivator. You know, it's so obvious, you know, what the need would be. Whether it's, you know, lust for sex or it's lust for food. It's a hunger, you know, it's a reaching for an insatiable desire. When you think of courage, we all know that courage balances itself against fear. If we don't know what we're afraid of, we're not going to necessarily feel courage. So our courage comes from a knowledge of fear. And that's a motivator. I'm going to be courageous because I know why I'm afraid. So within the words themselves, within the emotions themselves, are definitions that actually can motivate an actor to play a feeling. You can channel a feeling indirectly through knowing how it got there in the first place. You know, there's a lot of times we're afraid or we're upset or we're in an emotional place and we don't know why. And that happens a lot in life, isn't it true? Where we all of a sudden go, oh gosh, I don't know why I'm feeling so lonely, but I'm lonely, and I don't know why. And there might be 100 people around me, and I might be in a relationship, and still that emotion exists. So in acting, your characters sometimes don't know why they feel as well. Because a lot of times you'll find that if you are lonely and the scene is playing out that way and you have to feel that feeling, then you also want to know why, what they're not getting, what they're missing out on, what they're reaching for, what they're running from, what they're trying to fight for. And then the feeling, it helps sustain the feeling. Because feelings can ebb and flow. They're like a heartbeat. They move, they have a life to them, and sometimes they dissipate and they're gone. The good news is fear is an emotion. So if you know how to work your emotions, you can also allow yourself to work through fear, because it can dissipate and it could go. Triggers come from your imagination, but they also come from your memories. I always feel like your imagination is vast. It's huge. And then somewhere in your imagination lives your memories too. Because don't you notice your memories change? Like you might remember something a certain way when you were 20, and then when you're 30, you remember it completely different. And then you go into therapy, and then you find out you didn't see it at all that way, and it was like not necessarily the best way to see that situation. So, but this is the key. Things trigger you all day long, and you should be keeping a journal of all of your triggers. I'll tell you, what was it? Christian the Lion, if you see it on YouTube, you can YouTube Christian the Lion. And that particularly makes me tear up consistently. That would be a trigger for me. If I watched a lion reuniting with his two human parents that raised this little lion when he was a baby, and then they reunite. He gets too big for their apartment, so they bring him into the wild, and he adapts, and he builds a family. And these two men come back and visit the lion, and the lion comes down, recognizes him, and jumps on him, and doesn't maul them. And of course, Aerosmith is playing on the background, so that's it. Of course, I'm going to cry. The best way to get yourself to an emotion is to use the emotion cards, and also to work them. Because the emotion cards are actually a very simple version of a more sophisticated power tool called emotional content. And I've taken emotional content and made it and extra simplified it for the emotion cards. And some people are actually using them on set, putting them in their back pocket. All blocks are manifestations of fear. And that's crucial to know, Because if you know that every block is a manifestation of fear, you have to just find where you're afraid. Now, sometimes people are afraid because they'll demonstrate their fear through anger or through resistance, which is any resistance is a sign of fear. So once you can find where the fear lives, then you have to be daring and work through the fear. I mean, it is the artist's challenge is fear. And there are a few people that don't have it, but it's not as common. It's more common because when you care about something, it's important to you, and when something's important, fear shows up.